is Valley News Live at 4.
The man convicted of killing a North Dakota college student in 2003 has been taken off of death row. A federal judge has ruled that limited mental health evidence and misleading testimony from a medical examiner violated the constitutional right of Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. Rodriguez has been on death row for nearly 2 decades for the killing of Drew Shadeen, a Minnesota woman who was abducted from the Columbia Mall parking lot in Grand Forks. Rodriguez, a sex offender, was arrested the following month. Despite several massive searches, Shadeen's body wasn't found until 5 months later near Crookston, Minnesota. The federal judge has now ordered a new sentencing phase be conducted for Rodriguez. Stay with Valley News Live this evening as we continue to follow this story. A Fargo woman accused of killing a toddler last year has changed her plea to guilty. 37-year-old Brandy Adelke is charged with murder and child abuse in the death of 15-month-old Mika, who family members say was in Adelke's care for a sleepover. Court documents say she gave Mika a bath but left her unattended. The child went underwater. Adelke allegedly admitted to pinching and slapping Mika's face to try to wake her up. She's being held in the Cass County Jail on a $1 million bond. Now here's Hutch with a first look at your forecast. Hutch?
Hi everybody. As we head into the better part of our work week here, conditions are a little bit cooler and certainly breezier out at the Dakota Magic Casino right now. Clouds drifting overhead. Now the radar does show a couple of us are seeing some thunder showers in the northern Red River Valley and out towards Lake of the Woods. These are drifting fairly quickly to the south and east at about 45-mile-per-hour clip. We even have a couple of rumbles of thunder passing along that Highway 200 corridor there from near Findlay and Mayville south in towards the Hillsborough area and point south towards the FM area. We do have a small chance at seeing a brief sprinkle, but because these are moving so fast and they're so small, don't anticipate much in the way of significant rainfall. This area here, Lake of the Woods and point south and southern Lake of the Woods County and northeasternmost portions of Beltrami County seeing some heavier and more abundant lightning from the thunder showers that are passing through. Temperatures in the 70s now. It's gusty. As we see the sun set, the thunder chances go away and our temperatures cool off fairly quickly. Grand Forks, take a look at this. By the bedtime hours, you will already be down into the 50s. Heading in for a cool night. Stacy, I'll have details in your hour-by-hour forecast here on our next chance of rain, and we'll look ahead through the remainder of our work week ahead.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. The search for a missing 2-year-old in southern Minnesota is over. Police in Edina have been looking for the toddler since about 5 yesterday when she went missing from a park. Officials have not commented on the girl's condition, but our sister station WCCA reported a medical examiner's vehicle near the scene this afternoon. We'll be sure to bring you the latest as we receive it. We now know the name of a man who died after crashing his pickup into a tree over the weekend. The Otter Tail County Sheriff's Office says 29-year-old Nicholas Salo died at the crash scene. A passerby called in the crash after noticing a truck down a steep embankment east of Earhart. He was the only person in the truck at the time. He was from Elbow Lake, Minnesota. There's concern the surge of COVID cases is going to spike even more with people traveling over Labor Day weekend. This comes as hospitals in many parts of the country are overwhelmed with unvaccinated patients. Deborah Alfarone reports from Washington.
Public health officials are bracing for another possible COVID-19 surge. TSA officers screened more than 5.3 million passengers over the long Labor Day holiday, despite CDC warnings, especially for the unvaccinated, to stay home.
If there were a lot of people who were unvaccinated that were traveling and they didn't wear masks, as they didn't use appropriate social distancing, and they weren't washing their hands, we could see a lot more disease activity in the coming weeks.
Last week, the U.S. averaged more than 150,000 new COVID cases and more than 12,000 new hospital admissions. 53% of the total population is fully vaccinated, leaving just under half unprotected.
The risk of infection, just infection itself or serious infection, is so much higher with people who are unvaccinated.
Hospitals are stretched thin. A Washington Post tracker finds that the number of hospitalized COVID patients has more than doubled since last Labor Day.
Rural hospitals are especially struggling.
So 20 patients in the hospital, only one does not have COVID.
Dr. Hassan Kakli works at El Campo Memorial Hospital in Texas. He says wait times in the ER are unprecedented.
You would never see 4 digits on minutes since checked in. We're 4 digits on the thousands of minutes.
And a last resort move in northern Idaho, where facilities can no longer handle COVID patients. Crisis standards of care are in effect, allowing hospitals to allocate resources to the patients most likely to survive. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
Officials are also monitoring another COVID variant, the Mu variant, to see how transmissible it is and whether current vaccines stand up against it. More than 3,000 people got vaccinated at the Minnesota State Fair this year. The governor made the announcement today, calling the vaccination clinic a success. More than 3,100 fairgoers received a free COVID-19 vaccine, and more than 3,000 claimed a $100 Visa gift card for getting the first dose. Many Minnesota schools started their new school year today. East Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, and Detroit Lakes, to name a few. In Detroit Lakes, masks are encouraged but not required in school buildings. Because of the federal mandate regarding public transportation, kids do need to wear a face covering while on the bus. The superintendent says he's happy to have students back to in-person learning.
We are incredibly excited. This is a great day. 30 years in the business, and the first day never gets old. It's always exciting to see the kids coming in and kick off that year.
The DL School District is not offering distance learning for any K-8 student who chooses to stay home. The Fargo Police Department has 13 new officers ready to hit the streets. A swearing-in ceremony happened this morning at City Hall. All 13 officers recently graduated from the Fargo Police Academy. The police chief says the group is diverse, with former service industry professionals, jailers, military, and EMS. Some moved here from different states and one from a different country. Officer Ben Lean says public service is something he's been called to do his whole life.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to grow up around it. My dad was a cop, so from an early age I knew it's something that I wanted to do and I felt called to do, so I'm very excited for that.
The police chief tells us this is the largest group of new hires in more than 17 years. The destruction Ida inflicted from New Orleans to New York is creating a new push for lawmakers to pass pending infrastructure legislation to help communities become more resilient to disasters and severe weather. Wendy Gillette has the latest from New Jersey.
President Biden is heading to New York and New Jersey to see Ida's aftermath firsthand. He's already approved major disaster declarations for 6 New Jersey and 5 New York counties affected by the remnants of the storm. But with so much damage, many believe it's time for Congress to pass pending infrastructure legislation to help communities deal with disasters and severe weather.
That we're going to be able to fix permanently with the bill that we have in for infrastructure.
These storms are now more frequent, they're more intense. We desperately need that climate resiliency infrastructure.
Hard-hit Manville, New Jersey will be one of the president's stops today. The streets are still littered with debris as residents struggle to clean up and recover.
The kids' toys is the most heartbreaking, because they really don't understand the magnitude of what happened.
Anthony Kemple is trying to salvage precious belongings. His basement is still wet and muddy, and just about everything is ruined.
It's been a family nightmare.
In downtown Millburn, New Jersey, dumpsters are packed as volunteers help some businesses clean up.
The way that the people have come together is, just unbelievable.
The president's disaster declarations will allow individuals and businesses to receive federal aid for repairs and temporary housing. But many are hoping lawmakers will eventually come through with more. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, Manville, New Jersey.
The $1 trillion infrastructure bill pending in Congress would modernize roads, bridges, sewers, and drainage systems to make communities better able to withstand powerful storms. Progress is being made on the North Cheyenne Street Urban Reconstruction Project in West Fargo. Today, Cheyenne Street north of the Choice Bank near 2nd Avenue West to Main Avenue West will be closed, as will small portions of 1st and 2nd Avenues West. Detour routes are provided to gain access to area businesses. That project is expected to wrap up before the end of the month. A new app can get help to you sooner in an emergency. We'll tell you about it a little later on Valley News Live at 4.
But next, today's temperatures, well, we were in the 70s across the board to near 80. Down by Aberdeen, we did see 80 degrees today. September, a month of change where we see a lot of change in our daily high temperatures and records. Look at that by the end of the month, down into the teens for record lows. Your forecast is next.